26th election. Since then, the IEBC has said you did not formally withdraw from the election because you did not file the prescribed form 24A. So according to them, you have not withdrawn from the election. What is your response?
That is a laughable situation, Hussein. As you know, for the IEBC, did not even require me to formally apply for these first elections. They merely used the ruling of the Supreme Court in 2013, in which says that if the election of a presidential elect is nullified, then it is the petitioner and the presidential elect who are then allowed to participate in the subsequent election. And this is not a rerun. This is a fresh election. And that ruling also say that in the event that one of the candidates either dies or pulls out, then there will be a fresh nomination. Yes. The Electoral Commission is required to do a fresh nomination. So what I then did was I notified the Electoral Commission formally through a letter which was received and acknowledged. They acknowledged receipt that I had pulled out of the race formally.
Okay.
And they did state clearly that yes, they have received a letter from me.
That's a letter they sent to you?
That I sent to them.
No, they said they received the letter from you formally through a letter written to you, addressed to you?
Yes, they received the letter.
Okay. I'll come to that judgment of 2013 shortly, because Ekuru Court went to court to seek an interpretation of that, and now he has been allowed with other presidential candidates to vie in that election. I'll get your comment from that shortly. But this is still the IEBC, which has the mandate to conduct the election, that is now saying you must file the Form 24A. So are you going to file it, or what's going to happen?
No, that is academic, Hussein. That's really academic, because a letter is as good as a form. They did not even ask me to sign any other fresh form when they put my name in the gazette. They didn't even ask me if I wanted to run. They just came up and made an announcement, and they put a gazette notice quoting that Supreme Court ruling. And that's why they excluded all the other candidates who had vied at that time from running.
Right.
And they have not actually renounced or cancelled that gazette notice which they issued that at the time.
They're doing an addendum. We wait for it officially. That's what they're saying.
They're never an addendum. You cancel that, and then you issue a fresh gazette notice.
That's what they're saying they are going to do. But that judgment has already also been challenged in court. You saw how Justice Mutivo ruled to include Ekuru Court and the other presidential candidates in the race. But before we get to that, again, I'm asking you, are you going to fill that form, or what's going to happen?
I don't need to fill a form.
So you're not going to fill it?
I don't have to fill a form. I've withdrawn from the race through a letter, formally. So there's a form or no form, but
it doesn't matter to you that they're saying these are the regulations, election regulations, and for you to withdraw. That is what I insist.
I have already withdrawn through a formal letter. So that is basically a formality.
Okay. As I said, there's a judgment when you left actually the country that evening that now allowed Ekuru Court to vie plus the other presidential candidates. First, what do you make of that judgment? Although there's an appeal already, but what do you make of that judgment? Because the interpretation, according to some, is that it even negates the basis of which you have decided to withdraw from the election. That is the paragraph 290 of the 2013 judgment.
You see, unless now the law is being interpreted differently, and as far as I know, a lower court cannot overturn a ruling of a superior court. And here you are talking about a Supreme Court ruling. a High Court cannot overturn the Supreme Court rule. It can only be the other way around. The appeals always go upwards.
It's the head of the higher court, Supreme Court, who told Ekuru Court, that is Justice Maraga, seek this interpretation from the High Court. We will not do it ourselves. He is the one who directed Ekuru Court to go through the High Court.
And I think that High Court then overreached itself, because it should have basically looked at that ruling, because he's talking about an opinion. But then there was a subsequent court agenda that was issued by the Supreme Court, which is talking of a ruling, that this is our ruling. And as far as the law now stands on the Constitution, that is the law, until it will have been overturned by another Supreme Court ruling. And that has not happened.
So you're not going to abide that if it is meant to interpret, I mean, the way others are interpreting that now the election will be done on October 26th with all these other presidential candidates, and that you have no basis of withdrawing.
If they were to go ahead, which I'm hoping they will not, to purport to do an election on the 26th of this month, it will be a nullity. It will not be an election. Not be an election at all, because they will not have complied with the law as it stands today.
But this is the High Court that ruled that, Honorable Odinga. You've been calling people to respect the courts. It's a court decision by Justice Mativo that has decided the rest we are going to vie in the presidential.
It's the way things stand, that has been appealed, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm sure, I don't think that I see any court ruling otherwise.
Okay. Yeah. On this interpretation that some say it also negates the basis to which you withdrew, that is paragraph 290 of the 2013 judgment, are you going to seek any court redress in this or interpretation, or you're going to stand with what you?
I think our people are already in court. So you're
going to seek interpretation?
Our people are in court already.
All right. There have been demonstrations in Nairobi that, of course, you've had Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i has outlawed some demonstrations in the CBDs, especially in Kisumu, Nairobi, and Mombasa. First, I want to get your comment on that.
Fred Matiang'i has purported to outlaw demonstrations. He has no powers legally or constitutionally to outlaw demonstrations. Demonstrations are guaranteed by our Constitution and that provision that deals with the human rights. That is an entrenched provision in our Constitution, which gives Kenyans the right to strike, the right to picket, the right to demonstrate. So that cannot be just by a mere statement from a cabinet minister derogated. So he is basically acting illegally and unconstitutionally. And to the extent that his actions are unconstitutional, the people are entitled to disregard him.
There have been concerns, I'm sure you've heard, and what we witnessed, for example, yesterday, those destruction of property, about that Central Police Station, business people and other entities in the CBD in Nairobi. We're talking about 15 million shillings lost, accumulated, all the cases that were filed there through destruction. The question is, are you concerned? Because some are concerned that through such demonstrations, they can be infiltrated. You cannot control the people in such demonstrations. And as the organizers, you should be responsible for this. Are you concerned?
I'm certainly concerned. And we have talked clearly. And we have said that these demonstrations are supposed to be peaceful. People are supposed to gather. And the police are supposed to be notified of the route that's going to be followed by the people. And the people are supposed to be protected. The police are supposed to protect these demonstrations. You are going to see it on the street of London here. You see people demonstrating. They will give the police the time when the demonstrations are going to take place, the route demonstrations are going to be held, from where to where. And you will see the police, they're called bobbies here, escorting them. The reason you see anything like this called destruction of property is because of the violence the police is using against these civilians. That's when some other thugs and criminals will take advantage. Now I hear they were talking about arresting one Mr. Norman Magaya. That is the one who, Norman Magaya gave the police notification. Somebody must take the responsibility and notify the police. That's what the law requires. So if then the police don't control these so-called thugs who have been hired to try to interfere with the peaceful demonstration, that interfering with the Kenyans exercising their democratic right.
Some Jubilee MPs and leaders are construing these demonstrations to mean that this is something, a bigger plan, demonstrations to go on until October 26, so that there is violence. That's what they're accusing you of planning to do, so that the election is not held. How do you respond to that?
Elections will not be held on the 26th. It will be a charade. It will not be an election as we know it in democratic societies. Elections are supposed to unify the people, not to polarize the people. But what Jubilee is trying to do is basically to tear the fabric of the society apart. Mm-hmm. The Supreme Court ordered the IBC to conduct elections in accordance with the Constitution and the laws of the country and address what they call irregularities and illegalities which were found in the course of the court process. What does Jubilee do? Instead of allowing IBC to do elections according to the law and the Constitution, they amend the law. In other words, you are changing the goalposts or the rules in the middle of the game, okay? So that the IBC does not comply with the law. They change the law so that the IBC does not have to comply with it, okay? Secondly, the IBC has not addressed those illegalities and irregularities. The printing of fake election materials by the company called Al Ghurair. They end up still appointing the same Al Ghurair to do the printing of all those materials. The issue of transmission of results is still in the doubt. They still end up appointing the same company, Safran Mofo, which still has not brought the server from France to Nairobi. The server is still in France. And they still have refused to open that server in spite of the court order that they should allow access to that server so that we know the results which went to it from the various polling stations. So in light of all those, we're just going back for a repeat of what happened on the 8th. So how do you do the same thing the same way and expect a different result?
So they're saying, as of now, IBC is going to hold that election on October 26th. So what's going to happen?
They are going to do a repeat of August 8th. And we are not ready to accompany them into that direction. That's the reason why we pulled out.
So if your name is on the ballot or is not on the ballot either way on October 26th and they go ahead and do this election.
That's a charade.
What are you going to do?
I will not participate in that kind of exercise.
As the opposition leader, and definitely judging from the previous elections, you have your strongholds. We have seen this debate being talked about from both sides of the political divide, that what will happen on August 26th if there's an election. And some are already saying the opposition strongholds will not vote or may interfere with the election process. What will you say the supporters to do? If you yourself is saying you'll not participate, will they participate? How would you like them to handle it?
No, we have said that there will be no elections. It will be just a sham, whatever Jubilee want to call it. It will be a Jubilee exercise. It to not be a national election. And I think they must just have to live with that reality. You see, we would have loved to go for an election, a fair electoral process where there will be a winner and a loser, but in a level playing field. And that's why we came up with these reducible minimums. We asked IBC to address those issues, but they were stonewalled. They refused to address those issues despite so many times that we pleaded with them. They have not addressed the issue how Mr. D.S. Chirchir managed to penetrate, to enter into the system and post results in that system. Because Mr. Chirchir is the chief agent of Jubilee candidate. He's the former employee of IBC, the ICT manager. But how does he get in there and post results? These are very serious issues which the media is stripping under the carpet. Why have you guys not come out clearly and asked Mr. Chirchir, does he deserve to be there or should he be in jail?
Right there.
Should Mr. Chirchir be walking around majestically behind Ruto, behind Uhuru, as their representative, and you expect us to feel comfortable before those issues are addressed? I mean, come on.
You called, as NASA, you called for investigations. And your people also being investigated, Honorable Rengo and whatever, they also being investigated. That's what DPP, I mean.
That is hogwash. When DPP actually makes himself like a laughing stock. I mean, he should be serious with the Kenyans. What should Rengo be investigated for? What should Mudavadi be investigated for? Huh? There are no crimes. I mean, you don't want to assure that, oh, I'm even-handed, I'm going to investigate Chirchir, I'm going to do Orengo. I mean, please, give us a break.
Fair enough, and even the court ruling was clear. There were illegalities and irregularities in the IBC.
And people who commit illegalities are criminals who should be in jail. But should not be allowed to be protected. So they are protecting criminals.
Right, Honorable Odinga, because you are a defender of the Constitution and you're lauded for that as being an architect of the Constitution. There's also the principle of fair hearing. That is what is being argued. That the investigations, for example, the DPP is undertaking investigations and there are procedures to remove some of these officials. So what happens?
If that thing happened in this country, those guys would have long been arrested by serious fraud office and they would have been charged. Do you remember the chicken gate? People are in jail in this country for chicken gate. Kenyans who are mentioned, still they have not found sufficient evidence years later. So that's how our justice system is working. So we don't have a system that works. That's why we are encouraging criminals. Right now, there are so many people who are involved in corruption in Kenya, running around everywhere. Okay, why? Some of them are now in very high positions in the government. Okay.
What happens to such officials? Do they follow the procedures of their removal, or do they just leave it that? Because you're talking about this, a system in Kenya, and we have seen that. We've also seen that in the opposition. For example, there are people who fight for seats in the opposition who had investigations against them, but you also sanctioned them, and they got ODM tickets, and they are governors today.
You see, Hussein, opposition is not government. Okay? If somebody is guilty of corrupt practice, you can make allegations. But the government is the one with the instruments to investigate and prosecute. So don't say that, oh, NASA is doing nothing about the governors and so on. NASA is not government. Who has stopped you as a government from arresting governors who are in NASA and prosecuting them?
Finally, is there anything that can be salvaged? Because we've heard from some quarters guys are saying now you should talk to President Kenyatta. Do you see that as a way to end this impasse?
Hussein, there have always been these accusations, oh, NASA wants nusu mkate. Okay? And you've disclaimed it, you said so many times you don't want nusu mkate. Because you know that we're entitled to the whole loaf. And that's what we got. The Kenyans gave it to us, and I've challenged them to open the server. That will actually help us to avoid all this hullabaloo, instead of telling us to open the boxes. So, let's just open the server. All the results were transmitted from the polling stations to the server. If you open that server, you don't even need to talk to Uhuru Kenyatta. All the truth will come out. Even if somebody tried to alter the results, the footprint will remain and will be seen. So that will save us a lot of all these things that we're going through right now.
The best option for you would be what you've called for withdrawal and now a fresh election, but through fresh nominations and the whole exercise again.
Yes.
And the Kenyans to assume through fresh nominations you're going to vie again, or should we assume anything can happen after that? Could be any NASA principles.
Yeah, through fair elections, anybody is free to vie again.
So we cannot make any assumptions that it can be Raila Odinga again?
Not necessarily Raila Odinga.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you so much.